Hello out there. Welcome to Mindfulness 101. My name is Joslyn Hitter, and I am a mindfulness meditation teacher. And that is my full-time job. It's kind of surprising, but that's actually a job. It exists in today's world. And I love it because I love practicing mindfulness and sharing mindfulness with all the beings out there that I can possibly reach. So welcome to this webinar. Today we'll be diving into the basics of mindfulness meditation practice. So a few things just to orient you to this webinar and just to give some people some time to arrive and get on in the Zoom room. So the first thing is that Larissa is also a panelist on this webinar. So if you go to your chat box and you write messages to all panelists, Larissa will be able to read those and reply to you. I will not be replying to you in the chat window at all. So if you have any technical questions, Larissa will try to answer those to the best of her ability. Nobody here is a IT person. We're all doing our very best. So if during the course of the webinar you're having some difficulties accessing, you can chat at Larissa through the chat box. At the end of the webinar, I will be answering questions. I'm going to leave about a good 15 minutes at the end to answer any questions about mindfulness practice. So if you have questions specific to mindfulness meditation or to anything that I say during the course of the webinar that's unclear and you'd like some clarification on, or you'd like me to repeat again in a different way that helps you to understand, please ask your questions in the Q&A tab. So there is a different tab that says Q&A. And if you go in there, you can write questions and I will read those aloud at the end and answer them. And during the course of the webinar, you're free to do that at any time. I won't answer them until the end, but if other people want to go in there and check what questions are being asked, you can also hit a little thumbs up next to questions that you agree with, that are also questions that you have or that you would like to hear me answer. Because if there's a lot of questions in there, I'll probably answer the ones that have the most thumbs up next to them, because I know that'll be the most relevant for the most people that are listening. So at any time while I'm talking, go ahead and ask some questions. And then even if you don't have a question, go and check in that Q&A tab and put a thumbs up next to any that you also have or would like to hear me talk about. So that's under the Q&A tab. So the Q&A tab I'll be reading at the end, and the chat box Larissa will be attending to. So that's your orientation. And then just to say that my dog is in the background. She's back there, and I can't control her behavior. She's a living being. So anytime she might bark or she might decide that she wants to come sit closer to me and lick my face and do dog-like things. So she might be appearing at different points over the next hour. And that's just her doing her thing. Her name is Cleopatra. And we'll just work with that. So again, my name is Joslyn, and I sincerely welcome you to this webinar. I'm so happy that you're all here and attending, and that I get to share these practices with you that are so meaningful to me and have so benefited me in my life. So I think that's good enough for now, and we can just dive in while I scratch my nose. Okay. So I thought we would start by just talking very broadly about mindfulness. So mindfulness, I like to define in a couple different ways. We can understand mindfulness as a quality of mind, as an attitude, as a way that we mentally interact with our experience. So that's one way, a mental factor, a quality of mind, a mind state, you could even say, and an attitude that's sort of present in the mind. We could call that mindfulness. Another way would be the activity of mindfulness. So we can do any activity with this quality of mind, and then it becomes a mindful activity. So one of the most famous activities of mindfulness is meditation. But that's just one of the ways that we can practice mindfulness, one of the activities that we can make mindful. Because mindfulness is a quality of mind, an attitude, a mind state, a natural mental factor, we can do any activity that we do with our bodies, and they can become a mindfulness activity. Okay, that's what makes mindfulness so incredibly unique and powerful and beautiful, because you can make anything a mindfulness activity. It can go anywhere. It's incredibly portable. You just need a mind and a body and a heart, which we all have. So mindfulness is a very natural quality. You all already know how to be mindful. You already have everything you need to practice mindfulness. It's incredibly natural. It's a natural mind state. You don't have to do anything special to become mindful. You just have to recognize that state when it's present. It's a particular type of mind state. So now I'm going to get into that, but I'm just going to go back and repeat again what I just said, which is it's an attitude of mind, it's a quality of mind, and it's an activity. So both things are true, okay? Think of that as an attitude and an activity. So this quality of mind, this natural mind state that we all already have and we all already know how to do, called mindfulness, is a quality of mind where we are present. It's a present moment awareness. We can only be mindful in the present tense. We can't be mindful in the future, and we can't be mindful in the past. Mindfulness is a present moment awareness. There is a presence of the mind, where the mind and the body are inhabiting this moment. So oftentimes our body is here inhabiting this moment, and our mind is anywhere. Absolutely anywhere. You have noticed this. The most common example is you can be driving a car and thinking about something that happened last week. You could be planning a vacation. You could be reliving a pleasant moment. You could be dreading the future. You could be catastrophizing what's happening next week. And somehow your body got from your home to wherever you were going, or from wherever you were back home, like magically. Your body was in the present moment doing the tasks of driving, and your mind was just completely off somewhere else. So that's not mindfulness, okay? So if we were to use the same example of driving, to make driving a mindful activity, we would be present with the activity of driving. Okay, so I'm going to say a little bit more about how we become present, how we land in the present moment, how we become mindful of what's happening. So the easiest way to do this is with the body and with our sense organs, because they are naturally present. So even while we were thinking about whatever we were thinking about while we were driving, we were seeing. Seeing was happening. We just weren't aware that we were seeing. We weren't mindful of seeing. Hearing was happening while we were driving, planning our next vacation. We weren't aware that we were hearing, but hearing was happening. And our body was in a certain position. Touch was happening. The felt sense of the body. We were sitting. We were applying pressure to the gas pedal or to the brake. We weren't aware of how the foot was moving, how the body was sitting, how it was positioned in space, what our hands were doing. Our hands were on the steering wheel. They were turning, they were doing things, but we weren't aware. So the easiest way to become mindful, to bring presence, to bring present moment awareness to the activity that we're doing, is to begin to check in with the body and with these sense doors, these contact points of the senses that I just went through. So even right now, you don't have to do anything different. You can just become aware of what position your body's in. So I'm sitting, I'm holding my hands in my lap. Become aware that you're seeing. You're looking at the screen. I'm looking at the screen. I'm seeing. Can become aware of hearing. I'm hearing the sound of my own voice. I'm also hearing the hum of my refrigerator in the kitchen. I'm hearing some silence in the background as well. It's pretty quiet where I am. What are you hearing in your environment? So the simplest way to become present is to land in the body. Then we become mindful of the body. We become mindful of seeing, hearing, the touch points of the body, the contact. And I think you can feel for yourself. I mean, I feel it right now, how landing in this present moment and just beginning to inhabit it. To me, it feels like an embodiment, like I inhabit the present moment. I land in it. I begin to dwell in the present moment. There's a sense of relaxation and ease where the mind just sort of like exhales. There's a sense of relief in the mind to be here, to just be here. You know, one of my favorite things that John Lennon is famous for saying is life happens while you're making other plans. We do that. We do that so much. We have these big brains. It's incredible that our minds has the capacity to plan so many things and remember so many things. It's a very lively mental activities that we have that we can engage in. And it robs us of being present for our lives. So mindfulness we can think of as just actually becoming present for our lives. Like just being in our lives fully, which is really exciting. You know, that's sort of a wonderful intention to have to practice mindfulness is I just want to be here for my life. I just want to be in it. I want to live fully in each moment, really know each moment. So it's this natural quality. We've all been mindful at different points. And in fact, you might remember when you first learned how to drive, how mindful you were in the beginning, how much awareness there was. Whenever we learn anything new, we bring a natural quality of mindfulness to the experience. It's how we learn, by having presence, by really focusing, by collecting and gathering our attention in the activity. So we pay attention on purpose. This is one of the ways we can also understand mindfulness, is having the intention to pay attention. That's how we become mindful. We intend to pay attention. We intend to be here fully, to listen, to engage with the activity because we're trying to learn it. So we're most likely to be unmindful with the activities that we do the most often because our brains like to go on autopilot with activities that we do regularly. In some ways, we can understand autopilot as a way of habit. Once something becomes a habit, we are likely to go on autopilot when we're doing it because it's a habit. We do it all the time. It doesn't require mindfulness to complete that task. However, it's a lot more pleasant to actually be present for that task. Like I said, there's this relief, this kind of exhale that happens in the mind when we can just land in the present moment. And we can just do one thing at a time. And just do that one thing fully, even though it's something we've done 100,000 times. We don't really need to be present for it in order for it to be successful. And there's a way where it's often just more pleasant and more efficient. We tend to be, and this is how mindfulness ends up being correlated with productivity, is we tend to be more efficient with the task when we're present for it. So we've all had this experience of doing something like writing an email or responding to a text message, or even having a conversation with somebody, but not being really present, and then being like, did I tell them that thing that I wanted to tell them? Did I write that in the email? Did I even send the email? Did I actually hit send in that text message window? Like, I don't remember, right? Like, we have these moments of like, where did I leave my keys? Right? These things that are really habits that are very habituated, and we tend to do distracted, we end up having to go back and double check things because we weren't present. We were doing like 3 things at once. So it actually behooves us, even if it's something we habitually do all the time, to do it with presence, to do it mindfully. And that's what I was saying about making an activity a mindfulness practice. So we can bring mindfulness to any activity that we're doing, and then it becomes a mindfulness practice. So like writing an email, like feeling our body in the chair, feeling our fingers on the computer, typing away, feeling that weight in our hands of our fingers. You know, noticing that we're looking at a screen. Oh, I'm looking at a screen. I'm seeing words, seeing, feeling my fingers on the keyboard, feeling my body in the chair, hearing sounds around me. Da, 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 da. Now we're present. Now we are mindfully writing an email. And that's all that we're doing, is just writing this email. So simple. Yeah, writing an email mindfully. So pleasant. I think one of the greatest ways to practice mindfulness is actually in conversations with people. And you can feel that, right? When you're talking to somebody and they're really present, like they're really listening. You can feel their presence. You can feel how they're really have all the time in the world for you, that they're not distracted. We know what it's like when we talk to somebody and they're distracted. And it kind of doesn't feel good for us or for them, I presume. You know, I don't like it when somebody's talking to me and I know I'm distracted, and oftentimes I'll kind of realize I'm distracted and ask them to repeat what they just said so that I can really listen. So in a way, mindfulness has this quality of intimacy, presence, being really present with someone, with another being, has a kind of quality of love, of kindness, of compassion. There is a heart-centeredness when we're really present with the experience of listening to a person or talking to a person or being with them. And one of the ways that I love to practice mindfulness is actually outside when I'm walking. Really being aware of my body moving, of seeing nature around me. And that feels very intimate. I feel a sense of intimacy with my natural surroundings. Even if it's a block that I've walked down 100 times, I can really begin to see the changes of the seasons in the flowers or in the trees. Or the little ways that people have improved their gardens or let them go. And I really feel a sense of intimacy with my neighborhood, my community, by just mindfully walking through the neighborhood and not doing anything else. Just not taking my phone with me, just walking and knowing that I'm walking. So mindfulness, when it's practiced as an attitude and an activity, at the same time, there is this natural sense of intimacy that comes from being embodied, that comes from being present. And also a sense of curiosity where we become really interested in what we're seeing and what we're hearing, what it's like to be walking. So just becoming curious about an experience that we've had hundreds and hundreds of times sort of overrides this automatic pilot that our mind has a tendency to do, that it tends to kind of bring to the experience. We can become curious because really, automatic pilot is a lie. Really, every time we do something, it's a new experience. It never happens the same way. Even though we brush our teeth twice a day, we've done it hundreds of thousands of times, Each time we brush our teeth, it's actually a new experience because it's a new moment. Because our gums are always changing, our teeth are always changing. It's a different toothbrush sometimes, it's different toothpaste. It's actually brand new. But we tend to check out when we brush our teeth or we take a shower because it's something we do so regularly. So the trick is to become curious. If we become curious about something, the mindfulness naturally arises because mindfulness and curiosity are similar attitudes in the mind. Yeah, I'm just checking in with my notes a little bit, seeing how much more I want to say about this in this way. So what gets in the way, like I said, with this automatic pilot, is that we don't remember to be mindful. And what I was sharing with how when we do things habitually without any presence, we do them in a sort of distracted way, we can't remember if we were there or not. We can't remember if we actually did it or not. So mindfulness has this quality of memory. If we were mindful when we did an activity, we tend to remember it. So we've been mindful for many, many things in our lives. And that quality of remembering that moment means that mindfulness was present when we were doing it. Now, what gets in the way of being mindful on a day-to-day basis is also memory. We tend to be remembering things that have already happened. We tend to be replaying things in our minds. And then we're not here. We're not mindful. We're in a moment that already happened. We're sort of replaying it and reliving it. Our mind's kind of digesting and metabolizing previous moments, previous experiences. Or we're planning something in the future. It's sort of like we're predicting or speculating or imagining ourselves in a future moment. So, like curiosity, one of the ways to sort of have mindfulness arise is to remember to be mindful. We have to remember to be present. So it's helpful to have an intention, like I mentioned earlier, about why we want to be mindful. Like why we want to be present for our lives, why we want to be in this moment fully. And to remember that we want to be here, that we want to have this experience like it's the first time. So having a habit of being embodied can be really helpful. So the way we develop a habit of being embodied and a habit of being present is by formally training in mindfulness. So this is now where we're going to talk a little bit more about particular activities where we can strengthen this muscle of mindfulness, this muscle of being embodied, this muscle of being present and curious about something that we've done hundreds of thousands of times before. So I'm just going to do a little review here before I switch gears. So this quality and this attitude of mind, of presence, of intimacy with the experience, of curiosity, of wanting to be here, natural mind state of mindfulness. We've actually been mindful before in our lives unintentionally, hundreds of times when we were learning a new skill, we were having a conversation that was important with someone, we wanted to be there for it, or we were learning something for the first time, or we just knew it was a really special experience and we wanted to be sure we were there for it. So there's this quality that's so natural, it's so simple and easy, and then we're often checked out. But we know how to be here, we know how to be present and be curious about something and want to be present for our lives. I think we all want that. Often one of the ways that we practice mindfulness regularly is with children. Oftentimes we really know how to be present for children, especially when we're watching them, we're taking care of them. And it's a way where we're not like forceful about it. Like we're not straining to be present. We just sort of know how vulnerable children are, how likely they are to maybe hurt themselves, and how traumatic that can be. So we're always kind of having this light attention on children, and we're present. Even if we're a little bit distracted, we might be a little bit on our phones, or we might be also cooking, or we might be also talking to someone. Part of our awareness is really present with the child. And so this is a way that we sort of naturally are mindful. This kind of quality of attention that I'm talking about. It's another example of how it sort of arises naturally. Or like I said, when we know there's an important conversation to be had with a loved one, so when we're naturally mindful in those moments. So that's the quality of presence that I'm talking about. So we have to train in this if we want to be mindful more often throughout the day and have this presence, this embodiment, this curiosity and intimacy with our experience, with our lives more naturally. We have to train. We have to build this muscle of mindfulness. And it's an easy thing to do. It's an easy muscle to build. I can tell you from my own experience. It doesn't take much. It's what's really cool about mindfulness, because it's a natural mind state. It's something that is inherent to us, innate to us. It isn't anything extra. And because it's quite a relief for the mind. The mind likes doing one thing at a time. It doesn't like being distracted. One of the ways that we have fatigue or stress in our lives is from multitasking, being distracted, having a fragmented form of attention all day long. So the mind likes it. So it wants to be here. It just has these habits of kind of doing a lot of things at once. And there's a lot of conditioning and encouragement in the outside world to do as many things as possible. There's this myth, really, that that's more productive than doing one thing fully at a time. And that is a myth. It's actually more productive and efficient to do one thing fully at a time and to do it mindfully. So we train in meditation. That is generally the way that we train. That's the activity that that is the most useful for creating states of mind that are mindful repeatedly. And then our mind learns how to sort of land there over and over again. And then we bring that quality of mindfulness to other activities. So the more time that we can spend practicing mindfulness and meditation, we can call this training formally. So practicing mindfulness as an activity of meditation, or in the activity that we call meditation, we could call formally training in mindfulness. It's like going to the gym for mindfulness. So if we want to be able to run a marathon, which would be the equivalent of being mindful in many of our activities that we're doing throughout the day, spending 6 to 8 hours a day being more or less mindful, that would be a marathon. We need to train. We can't just get up from the couch after this webinar and just have this quality of mindfulness in every activity. There is some training that needs to happen, the way you can't just get up off your couch and run a marathon. So we train in this formal way, which is meditation practice. And the reason why it's the training ground is because we're not doing really anything except being mindful. So it's hard to be distracted, even though it will happen. You will become distracted. It's quite amazing. You're sitting there, in a sitting posture, or you're lying down in a lying down posture, or you're standing in a standing posture, or you're walking in a walking posture. Those are the 4 formal training postures for mindfulness. So sitting, lying down, standing, and walking. They are all equal, even though magazine covers would tell you that sitting cross-legged on the floor is the only posture. Not true. 4 postures, all equal ways to train in mindfulness. So we get into a particular posture and we train. And we train by connecting with an anchor. So we have an anchor. We have a home base for our attention. We have an object, a mindfulness object. And I've already sort of mentioned them a little bit, the different anchors that we can have. So seeing can be an anchor. Hearing can be an anchor. Feeling your feet on the ground can be an anchor. Feeling your hands, the sensation of your hands, depending on what you're doing, can be an anchor. Using your breath, that's one of the most common ways that we anchor our attention, because the breath is always happening. The body is always breathing. Or just kind of a whole body awareness, like the body is standing, the body is walking, or the body is sitting, or the body is lying down. You can use whole body awareness or a particular aspect of the body, like I mentioned, hands or feet, or the breath. So those are different entry points in the body that we can use to train. Seeing and hearing work really well too. So I'm going to briefly go through the different postures in more detail. So in sitting meditation, the most common thing is to be aware of the breath, the sensation of the body breathing, or of sound, or of the feeling of the hands. So those are three anchors that I use regularly to train my mindful attention, mindful awareness. So you just sort of sit there, we call it meditation, and as best you can, you connect with one of those anchors. And I recommend just using one at a time. So if you're sitting in the mornings, doing one morning with sound, one morning with the sensation of your hands, one morning with the breath, alternating between those different anchors on different days, and just training your attention as best you can to connect with that object. Your mind will wander. You will become distracted. And gently, over and over again, you'll bring your attention back to the anchor. There's a lot of different guided meditations out there that will lead you in practices of either being with the breath or being with sound. And I'll say more about that at the end, okay? About different guided meditations that you can use for this. But really, it's quite simple, and hopefully we'll have enough time and I'll be able to lead us in a short practice of just connecting as best we can with the anchor. The mind wanders, we bring it back. It's the same in the lying down posture. You can be aware of the breath, you can be aware of sound, you can be aware of the sensations in your hands. And you just practice lying down. You can be lying on your bed, you can be lying on the floor, you can be lying on the couch. Doesn't matter. You're likely to fall asleep. If you're pretty tired and the body's pretty used to falling asleep in a lying down posture. So it can be helpful to keep one hand up like this. And then if you fall asleep, you'll hit yourself and you'll wake up. That's basically the trick. So you're just lying down, your elbow's at your side, and your hand is raised. And it doesn't take very much effort to keep the hand up, but that's a good way to practice in the lying down posture if you don't want to fall asleep. And then standing meditation. I really like practicing in standing meditation. I find that it brings a lot of this quality of mindfulness to other activities because, like I said, brushing your teeth, showering, cooking, this all happens standing. Folding laundry happens standing. So the more I practice in standing meditation, the more I'm able to bring this quality of mindfulness to activities that I do very regularly. So in standing meditation, I like to be aware of my feet in particular. Sometimes my breath, also sound. I use all of these different anchors to practice standing meditation. It's good to have the legs, bent a little bit, to stand in a posture that's buoyant, not to lock out the knees at all. Make sure you're engaging your core. Your back might hurt over time, depending on how long you're standing for. I'll often start any type of practice period with some standing. So I'll stand for 5 to 10 minutes before I do a sitting meditation or a lying down meditation. I'll kind of do both. I'll do two postures at once. It's like a twofer. Get a lot of good moments of mindfulness in there that will lead to future moments of mindfulness throughout the day. And then walking meditation, really one of my favorite ways to practice mindfulness. I said I really like to practice outside, and I have a dog, so we go on a lot of walks together. So in walking meditation, also I'm aware of my feet, I'm aware of my body moving through space. I use that whole body awareness in walking meditation, but anchoring my attention over and over again with my feet. Coming back to the feet, coming back to the feet. My mind wanders. I'm also aware that I'm looking, that I'm seeing, and I'm hearing when I'm practicing walking meditation. So often what I'll do is I'll do one block, being aware of seeing, one block, being aware of hearing, one block, being aware of my feet, and then one block, being aware of my whole body moving. And now I've kind of gone around my whole little neighborhood and I'm back home. And so I'll do that regularly. So seeing, hearing, feeling my feet, whole body awareness. And your mind wanders. The point is not to never have your mind wander. That's why we train with an anchor. We have a place that we bring our mind back to. That's a place of presence. That's a place of embodiment. Your mind wanders, you come back. Your mind wanders, you come back. It's the point, there's like this misconception out there that we're going to get to a point where our mind never wanders. Not at all. We're building the muscle by bringing it back. Because what happens when we bring it back is we're remembering to be here. We're remembering to be mindful. We're remembering our intention, which is to be alive and present and here for our lives. And so over and over and over again, we're coming back and we celebrate this. We celebrate this moment of remembering that I want to be here. I want to be present. I want to know what's happening. I want to see and know that I'm seeing. I want to hear and know that I'm hearing. I want to feel my feet moving. I want to be aware of my whole body walking. Yay, I'm remembering to be here. Every time we're sitting still and we remember to come back to the breath, oh, I'm breathing. I'm remembering that I'm breathing. I'm remembering that I'm alive and this really cool thing called breathing is happening. So we get distracted and we come back and we come back. And then all of a sudden we're there brushing our teeth, totally spaced out, thinking about what's happening tomorrow. It's like, oh, I'm brushing my teeth. I'm remembering to be here. I'm remembering that I'm standing and brushing my teeth. Or we're driving and we're spaced out. We're just like thinking about who knows what. Mind is gone. And then we come back. My hands are on the wheel. I'm remembering that I'm driving. I'm remembering to be here. Yay, I did it. That's what we're doing. So we train in these postures, in these formal postures, letting our minds wander. I mean, we don't let it happen. It just happens. If we were in charge, I'd be like, my mind is not going to wander for 20 minutes. Not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. No, I'm not in charge. The mind just goes somewhere and it comes back. But like it always comes home. It always somehow eventually makes its way home and we celebrate it. Yay, I'm here. I'm back with my breath. Yay, I'm here. I'm feeling my hands. Yay, I'm here. I just heard this amazing sound. Wow. What bird was that? That was cool. That's a moment of mindfulness. That's what we're trying to do, is have more and more of those moments throughout the day, throughout our lives. So, I think let's do a short practice. I don't want you to change your posture. I want you to just settle in however you are. And yeah, so don't do much of anything. Just realize what posture you're in. You can close your eyes if you'd like to close your eyes, but you don't have to. So whether you're sitting or you're lying down or you're standing, you're in some form of a posture that's suitable for formal training. You can close your eyes if you'd like. Just becoming aware that you're sitting or standing or lying down. Maybe you're walking, it's possible, back and forth. And just notice that you're breathing. So breath is happening. It's been happening this whole time. You're becoming aware that you're breathing. So you might notice the sensations of breath, the way the body moves in and out with the breath. Breathing is happening. You don't have to do anything about it. And maybe you've already become distracted, and you can come back to your breath, just connecting with this anchor and bringing this attitude of mindfulness to the activity of breathing. So being curious about these sensations that we call breath. It's a flow of sensation. Breathing and knowing that you're breathing. This is mindfulness. Being present and conscious of what's happening here and now. When the mind wanders, we bring it back. Breathing, inhaling, exhaling, just like this. Just like this, breathing in and out. No special way that we need to breathe. Just knowing that we're breathing. So that's one anchor, is the breath. Now let's be aware of sound. Maybe hearing the sound of my voice. Maybe hearing the sound of silence around you. Maybe it's very quiet in your home. Maybe you can hear birds outside. Or like the faint noises of creaking that happen in a house or an apartment. You can hear your neighbors or television in another room, other people in your home. Just hearing, knowing that hearing is happening. Being here for the sound, being present, hearing. Remembering to be here, coming back to the sounds over and over again. Now we'll switch the anchor to the hands. So you don't have to move your hands, just noticing that you can feel your hands without moving them or without looking at them. Feeling the sensations in the hands. Maybe they're warm, maybe they're cold. Feeling the contact between the hands and the legs, the thighs, or the other hand. Maybe they're holding each other, whatever they're doing. Feeling the sensations in the hands. Maybe there's some tingling. Feeling the space between the fingertips. Just feeling the hands. And the mind wanders. We think about stuff. And we come back to the hands. Just feeling the hands. And now we'll switch the anchor to the feet. Feeling the feet. You're noticing the contact between the feet and the floor, the feet and the pillow or the bed. You're lying down. It can be very grounding to anchor in the feet. The sturdiness. Bringing our attention back over and over again to the feet. Feeling contact, grounding. Feeling temperature. Maybe the feet are cold, maybe they're warm. Again, being curious. Bringing this attitude of curiosity to the experience. Maybe feeling the different toes, the arch of the foot, the heel, the corners of the feet. Just feeling the feet, being present, being here for the experience of having feet. And now lastly, if your eyes are closed, I encourage you to open them and just look around the room that you're in. Just letting your eyes land wherever they land. You're just seeing. You're knowing that you're seeing. You're not looking at anything in particular, letting the eyes wander. This is seeing, knowing that seeing is happening. And maybe you see something pleasant. I can see a tree outside my window. And just taking a few moments to look at whatever is pleasant to you. Letting your eyes land there. Seeing, knowing that you're seeing. And just being present with the activity of seeing, mindfully seeing. And that's it. So that was 10 minutes. And I went through a bunch of different anchors because I wanted to give you an example of working with each of those anchors. But in your own practice, I encourage you to just do one of those at a time, one of those per a session. So you're really just being with each anchor at a time. And yeah, so I'm happy to answer any questions. I don't see any questions that have come in. So I encourage you to write any questions in the Q&A if you have any. I'd be happy to answer them. While we're doing that, I'll just say that it does take some training. So I encourage you to find 10 minutes a day. 10 minutes is a good amount to formally train in any of the postures that I talked about, sitting, walking, standing, or lying down, and working with one anchor at a time. There's many guided meditations out there. There's many different apps that you can use that offer guided meditations. Like Insight Timer is a good app. It's a free one, and there's tons of guided meditations on there. You can go to YouTube. Also, if you just put in mindfulness meditations, lots of things will come up. Mindful.com is a website that has a lot of guided meditations on there and a lot of articles on mindfulness. If you want to learn more, it's a really good place to go. There's a ton out there right now on mindfulness. Mindfulness has become quite popular. Who would have known? So, yeah, I encourage you to practice in all these different postures, to train formally, to use different anchors, and to really see what works well for you, because everyone is different. Everyone has a different mind, heart, and body. So I can only really share with you what works for me and the way that I've trained in mindfulness. And like I said, I like to use all the different postures and use different anchors. I find that it really supports me in my daily life activities. And any moment of mindfulness is likely to bring more moments of mindfulness. It's just how the mind works. It's how neuroplasticity is. So we develop these new neurological pathways every time we practice mindfulness. And then we're more likely to actually develop a habit of mindfulness, where even this type of mindful attention can become our go-to, our de facto way of being in the world. And then we're present for our lives. So it's helpful to have an intention, to remember why you want to practice mindfulness. It'll help you commit to the training and bring a lot of joy to your life. So there's many benefits of being present. Like I said, having a fragmented, distracted, kind of dissociated sort of attention leads to stress in the system. It leads to exhaustion, fatigue, as well as some anxiety and some depressive types of mind states. So when we're not really present with what we're doing, our mind is engaged in what's called a default mode network. This is what we call sort of automatic pilot, a sort of dissociated way of being. And it leads to like a low energy and sort of a low kind of engagement with life that we would call like not a completely a depressive mind state, but sort of a misanthropic, maybe we would say, way of being in the world. And when we're present, when we're practicing mindfulness, the mind is centered and we're not in that default mode. We're in a mode that is mindful, that is present, that's focused, that's gathered, that's clear, that's bright. And that leads to happier mind states, more buoyancy and joy, and less stress. So I really encourage you to practice. Yeah. So there don't seem to be any questions. So I'm just gonna say goodbye. And thank you so much for being here. And yeah, I wish you the best of luck on your journey with mindfulness. And if you'd like to know more about how to practice at home, I did another webinar on how to start a mindfulness home practice, where, yeah, there's a lot of information in that webinar about how to practice mindfulness meditation. So you can check that out if you want to know more about how to practice during this time of being home, more specifically. Okay, well, thank you all so much. I wish you all the best, and it's wonderful to be with you, and good luck. Okay, I'm going to end the meeting. Thank you.